Hello, Uncle Spurt here, and today we're having a proper good squint at this wee bugger right here, the Honor MagicPad 3 13.3. It's a 600 quid iPad alternative boasting some pretty slick design, a gorgeous massive display, no less than 8 bloody speakers, and a silicon carbon battery with ridiculous capacity. Been using it for a few days now, so here's what I reckon of the Honor MagicPad 3, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe, ding the old notifications bell. Cheers! So first up, my version of the MagicPad 3 came bundled with the Smart Touch keyboard. And this tablet's also compatible with the Honor Magic Pencil, or whatever the ruddy heck the stylus is called, but that did not come bundled with it. Now first, let's just pop it out of the keyboard stand. We'll get to you later. Now the MagicPad 3 is a 13.3 inch tablet, so a bit of a whopper to say the least. 3:2 aspect ratio. As you can see there, though, really skinny bezels surrounding it, so that doesn't really add much to the bulk. And pleasingly symmetrical all the way around as well. The only problem I've noticed is that if you're clutching this tablet at the edges like so, and your thumb just strays ever so slightly onto that screen, it then becomes completely unresponsive, which of course it's not going to do now. It's going to be a total dick and work perfectly. There we go, now it's doing it again, thank God. I don't look like a loony. And the MagicPad, impressively skinny as well, as you can see there, under 6mm thick if you don't include the wee camera bump over in that corner there. But of course it is still quite heavy at 595 grams, so you do tend to get a little bit of arm fatigue if you are holding it for a good hour or so. And also, gotta say, the Honor MagicPad 3 has the loveliest arse of any tablet that I've tested in 2025. Not only does it look rather smart, but it's got this lovely fine textured finish. Kind of feels like you're stroking leather or perhaps some coarse paper. It's actually a lot nicer than what I'm describing right now. And when it catches the light just so, it even slightly sparkles, which is rather fetching. My only complaint would be that dinky wee camera bump in the corner, but it's a minor grumble at best. Well, that, and also the MagicPad is only available in grey or white, not the most resplendent of colour choices. Now I'm just going to stick the MagicPad 3 back into its smart keyboard dock, which will helpfully prop it up. Now, slightly annoyingly, there's no fingerprint sensor built into the power button on the MagicPad 3, so you've just got face verification to prove that you are you. I have reviewed quite a few tablets without a fingerprint sensor, just the face unlock in 2025. Luckily, this seems to be perfectly dependable. Rarely do I have to bother punching in my PIN. And then once you're in there, you will see that it is Android version 15, not the latest freshest 16, sadly, with macOS 9 slathered all over the top like a thick, delicious layer of lard. Unfortunately, while Honor has committed to many years of OS updates and security patching for its Magic smartphones, unfortunately not the case for the tablets, and reports differ somewhat on how many years of support this thing will get. I guess it'll depend on what region you live in, although apparently it might only be as low as 1 or 2 OS updates before they say, right, bugger it, we can't be bothered with that anymore. So just bear this in mind compared with rivals from the likes of Samsung, for instance, which will get a few years of OS updates going forward. In better news, Honor has at least generously stuffed 512 gigs of storage into this tablet. And there's actually not that much crapware on here. I was expecting a lot more. There's basically a few of Honor's apps like Honor Health, Game Center, but blissfully no Facebook or LinkedIn or Booking.com. And the overall tablet experience, not the most refined out there, but it works absolutely fine. When you're in an app, you can drag the dock back onto screen at any time, grab yourself another app and pull it onto the screen to multitask. You can then, of course, as usual, resize the apps. One problem I have noticed is that this wee bar at the top you can generally tap to either make an app go full screen or get it to drop into a tiny window, like so. But this wee bar can also sometimes get in the way, like for instance here in Chrome, it's actually over the top of the tabs. So if I wanted to actually start a new tab or close that tab, it's just getting right on my tits. And I've seen a few other wee little quirks and issues with the MagicPad 3 when I've been using it these past few days. Just little wee nasty bits of bollockry where it's like, if it was a £300 tablet, maybe it would be more acceptable. It's a £600 tablet, so come on guys. And you can quickly rearrange your apps so you've got 2 or 3 side by side. The screen is certainly comfortably spacious enough to handle 3 apps at once. You can stream a bit of video while you're working, whatever you want to do. And I also really like how you can easily minimize apps like Spotify. So get your tunes playing and then just minimize it. It pops over to the edge here. You can drag it out again at any point if you want to. Otherwise, plenty of space for all your other apps. And some rivals do the whole multitasking experience better. The likes of the OnePlus tablets, for instance, highly satisfying with that open canvas setup. Especially once you're up to sort of 3 or 4 apps on the go at once, just makes that whole experience feel a lot more fluid and intuitive. And of course, very much like Google and Samsung, Honor is going balls deep with the AI shenanigans. You got some pretty regular features stashed in here, the likes of AI subtitle and AI writing, if you can't be bothered to compose your own email or message or whatever. The likes of Magic Portal is actually pretty decent. Say you come across a movie, a game, an event that you're interested in online, all you need to do is just tap with your knuckle and drag a circle around it. And then you can add this to your favorite space. And this is basically a not quite as smart alternative to the likes of Google's Pixel screenshots, for instance. You can quickly extract any text from there to then copy and use in a message or wherever else. You can quickly share it with others as well. Otherwise, the favorite space is basically a handy repository for stuff what you want to remember. And of course, you've got Honor's AI deepfake detection slapped on there as well, which can give you a heads up if you're chatting with an AI construct online. And then, as I mentioned back at the beginning of this lovely wee video, you do get the smart keyboard bundled with the MagicPad 3, at least I did with my review sample. So this acts as a protective cover when you're not actually using the MagicPad 3 tablet. Then when it's time for action, basically just pull down the keyboard a bit, and then the back end of the cover actually folds down like so. And this works as a kind of stand, propping up the MagicPad 3 to pretty much any angle you require. It's not the most stable of setups, I've got to say. When you are poking that screen, it does tend to wobble about a bit. And as for the actual keyboard itself, well, this is absolutely fine, reasonably spacious, because of course it's a 13-inch tablet. So the keys aren't really all crushed together. Occasionally with the cursor keys, I accidentally mash the top and the bottom one at the same time. But I do appreciate how you have a dedicated Gemini key. The touch typing experience absolutely fine, comfortable enough. You've got a decent-ish amount of travel, considering again it is a keyboard cover. No backlighting, of course, which makes things a little bit trickier if you're trying to work in the dark. And also the usual woes, if you're trying to use this thing on your lap, it can be kind of awkward to try and get a comfortable position so you can actually type on this thing without it wobbling about the place. Now I've got to say, one of the highlights of the Honor MagicPad 13 is that 13.3-inch LCD display. It's a bit of a banger. You've got 3.2K resolution, so 3200 by 2136 pixels. So even though it's a biggin, images nice and crispy. Lots of fine detail packed in there, whether you're enjoying a 4K movie, editing videos, whatever. And no, it's not an OLED display, though I guess that's good news if you are sensitive to OLED flicker, but you still get sharp contrast. You've got full HDR10 plus streaming support on this bad boy. And the screen does hit around 1000 nits with the HDR peak brightness. I found that it was bright enough to comfortably use outdoors as long as the sunlight isn't actually directly reflecting off of that highly shiny surface. Reasonably punchy colours too, and the aspect ratio works really well for multitasking, bit of side-by-side action. Less ideal, admittedly, for cinematic shenanigans, although you do actually get a proper full-on view with IMAX enhanced titles, which the MagicPad 3 supports. You'll find some IMAX enhanced titles on the likes of Disney+, just a handful of options, and it's mostly just your Marvel punchy, kicky shenanigans. And some of these titles, it's only certain scenes that are IMAX enhanced. You'll see the view expands when the action heats up or whatever. But yeah, overall a top quality panel, and Honor has really taken its eye comfort shenanigans seriously as well. So you've got plenty of different features on here, including dry eye relief, defocus, eye care, but a natural tone and eye comfort, so just filter that blue light. One of my favourite and most highly underrated Honor display features as well, the motion sickness relief, which basically adds these little coloured dots to the screen, which then move around as the tablet moves. And I've got bugger all comprehension of the science behind it, but it certainly does stop you from getting motion sickness if you are sat in a car trundling along, trying to watch a video or browse some documents or whatever. Usually I get car sick after about 20 or 30 minutes of staring at a screen, usually after about 5 minutes if I'm hungover. That's not a good combination. And the Honor MagicPad 3 boasts no less than 8 speakers with full DTS:X Ultra support on here. They're not quite as loud or as punchy as I hoped, however. They do offer a reasonably immersive experience for movies, but they're also lacking in bass, so explosions, punch-ups, things like that just don't have the oomph that you get with some other tablets, especially from the likes of Samsung. Absolutely fine if you're just watching a bit of YouTube, streaming some footy or whatever, but if you're trying to enjoy something in a quite noisy environment, even on that maximum volume, not quite as loud as I would have hoped to really make everything crystal clear. And sadly, no headphone jack on the MagicPad 3 either, although the Bluetooth streaming was absolutely fine, had no issues with that. And then for the performance, sadly it's not Qualcomm's latest, freshest Snapdragon 8 Elite stuffed inside of this thing. It's actually the Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 from last year, but that is still a beefy chipset that can cope with basically anything you hoy at it. So yeah, multitasking, not a problem at all, especially helped along by the 16 gigs of RAM. And if you are a gamer, well, good news, the likes of Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, all those more demanding titles play with a nice fluid frame rate, even if you jack up the old visuals. So one or two wee dips in the frame rate throughout, a good hour-and-a-half gameplay session, but Wuthering Waves played beautifully for 99.9% of the time with those gorgeous, crispy, high-res visuals. And you're basically future-proofed for getting online with a bit of Wi-Fi 7 support, although there is no LTE action on here. There's no SIM support at all, so you will have to hotspot if you're on the move and you can't find reliable Wi-Fi. And another highlight of the MagicPad 3 is the whopping great battery. Because this thing might be supremely skinny, but Honor has actually stuffed a silicon carbon battery inside. The 12,450 milliamp hour capacity. So I found the battery drain is minimal. Certainly you can leave this thing hibernate and come back to it days later and it'll have barely dropped 1%. And I found that even if you're running 3 apps at once, side by side, and streaming some video down in the corner as well, you'll still get 10 to 12 hours of full-on action like that from a 100% charge before the MagicPad 3 needs plugging in. And that's with the screen brightness maxed out, the volume maxed out and everything as well. So cracking stuff. Certainly if you are looking for a tablet to keep you entertained on a long haul journey, this thing will happily keep you going on a flight all the way from the UK to the bloody other side of America. And even though it's a massive battery, you won't have to hang around too long waiting for it to charge back up because you've got 66 watt wide charging support. So certainly even if it's on its last legs, if you plug it in for just 10-15 minutes, that'll give you enough charge to get you through the longest of commutes. And then squirreled away in that dinky wee bezel above the display, you've got yourself a 9 megapixel front facing selfie camera. This can record up to 4K resolution video. It's absolutely fine for your video chat shenanigans. I do look a bit sort of grainy and noisy in this footage because it's a fairly ambient lighting environment right here. It's not a massive fan of high contrast, so you will be blanched out somewhat if you're sat right in front of a bright window, so maybe don't do that. But the audio will pick up nice and clear using the multi-mic setup. And then if we flip around to the back, you've also got a 13 megapixel rear camera for some reason, so I can get a nice video of my plant here. Lovely stuff. Not really sure, again, why you've got cameras on the back ends of tablets. If you want to take a bit of video or a photo with a massive rectangle, I guess that's handy. And there you have it, my lovelies. That in a delicious wee nutshell is the fresh new Honor MagicPad 3. Is it a proper full-on iPad rival? Well, the actual hardware, pretty slick stuff. You've got respectable performance in there, excellent battery life, certainly on perfect timing from the low battery warning there. All wrapped up in a slender, if not particularly lightweight, frame. My only reservation is the software isn't as good as some rivals, can be a wee bit janky, and certainly a better experience with the likes of the OnePlus tablets, that excellent Oxygen OS launcher, and of course the fantastic open canvas design. Anyway, that's more than enough for me banging on. Be great to hear your thoughts down in the comments below. Please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell while you're down there. Have yourselves a cracking rest of the week. Cheers everybody, love you all.